everyone, welcome to your course MATH102B. So today we will be discussing your module number 1, or that will be the review topics on algebra, trigonometry, and analytical geometry. This is your instructor, Engineer Janaika A. Tapiador. So for this particular video, we will be covering the review topics on your algebra. So at the end of module number 1, this is your topic learning outcome. You should be able then to review the prerequisite topics on your calculus, or that will be your pre-calculus courses. So we will be reviewing the basic rules and procedures of algebra that you need to know in order for you to be successful in this particular course. So these are the topics. We will be starting with your arithmetic operations, followed by your fractions, factoring, completing the square, quadratic formula, radicals, exponents, inequalities, and absolute values. So very short lang naman po yung mga topics na ito. So let's start with your arithmetic operations. So please recall that real numbers have the following properties. So you have three different laws here. You have the commutative law, wherein your a plus b is also equivalent to your b plus a. Your associative law, which indicates that quantity a plus b plus c is equal to a plus quantity b plus c. And of course, your distributive law, wherein a multiplied plus b or multiplied by b plus c is equivalent to ab plus ac. So you just distribute a to b and then a to c. So let's have an example, a very simple one. So you have here 2x plus 1 multiplied by the quantity 3x minus 5. So using your distributive law, diba, ang unang gagawin po dyan is 2x multiplied by 3x. So that's the first quantity that you see here, plus 2x multiplied by the negative 5. So ito po yung next. Plus your 1 multiplied by 3x. So, ito po yan. And then finally, your 1 multiplied by the negative 5. And then simplifying this particular equation would actually give you, so that will be 2x times 3x will give you 6x squared. 2x multiplied by negative 5 will give you negative 10x. And then 1 times 3x will give you 3x. And finally, 1 times negative 5 will give you negative 5. So multiply, or rather simplifying it further, will give you the final answer, which is 6x squared minus 10x plus 3x minus 5. Or actually, if you try to simplify it further, di ba, magiging 6x squared minus 7x minus 5. Sorry, hindi ko na nailagay, but that's supposed to be the final answer. Kasi these are like terms together, so you could actually add them out. So that will be 6x squared minus 7x minus 5. That should be the final answer. So let's go to fractions. So to add two fractions with the same denominator, we use the distributive law, wherein a over b plus c over b is equal to a plus c all over b. Again, take note, this is if they have the same denominator. To add two fractions with different denominators, we use a common denominator. So for example, a over b plus c all over d is equivalent to a times d plus b times c divided by b all over d. Anyway, these are just review, di ba? Alam nyo naman na itong mga to. You actually took this already when you were in high school. If we would like to multiply multiply fractions, we just use or we just simply multiply as follows. So a over b times c over d will give you a times c divided by b times d. And if we want to divide two fractions, we simply invert and multiply. So a over b divided by c all over d is equal to a all over b times, so we invert the denominator, d all over c, and then we just simply multiply, giving us a times d all over b times c. So, recall lang po itong mga to. So, let's have an example. Example number 2. So, for example, we have this particular fraction, 3 all over x minus 1 plus x all over x plus 2. So, if you recall, you have to add them and then you have different denominators. So, what do we do? Following, diba? Ito yung ipa-follow natin. Let me go back. So, ito. Diba? Ipa-follow natin itong particular denotion na to. So, yeah. Magiging 3 times. This time, yung x plus 2, yun yung parang letter D nyo. So, that will be 3 times the quantity x plus 2 plus x times the quantity x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 multiplied by x plus 2. Then, of course, simplifying this particular fraction will give you 3x plus 6 plus x squared minus x divided by x squared plus x minus 2. And pwede pa po yung i-further simplify into x squared plus 2x plus 6. Tama ba? X squared? Yes. X squared plus 2x plus 6 divided by x squared plus x minus 2. So, sinimplify lang po natin joining like terms together. So, let's have another example for fractions. So, for example, we have this. X over y plus 1 divided by 1 minus y divided by x. So, of course, una natin gagawin is to simplify. So, parang ito kasi magiging 1 over 1. So, parang gagawin lang natin siya yung isang rule kanina, adding fractions with different denominators. So, pag sinimplify natin to, itong numerator natin dito, magiging ganito siya. X plus y all over y. Same is true with the denominator part. This equation will become x minus y over x. And then, pag meron ka na yan, diba, following the fourth rule kanina, invert mo lang si denominator and then you just simply multiply. So, x plus y all over y multiplied by x divided by x minus y. Then, syempre, multiply mo. So, magiging x multiplied by x plus y divided by y multiplied by x minus y. To give you a final answer, which is equivalent to x squared plus xy divided by xy minus y squared. So, dinistribute lang natin. So, next, we go to your factoring, the third topic. So it says here, we have used the distributive law to expand certain algebraic expressions. We sometimes need to reverse this process by factoring an expression as a product of simpler ones. So parang kung kanina in-expand natin, ngayon naman ifa-factor out natin. Diba? Such that, kunyari ito, 3x multiplied by x minus 2. Diba? Pag magiging ganito siya, 3x squared minus 6x, pabaliktad naman tayo. Kunyari, ito yung given, 3x squared minus 6x, parang ito naman yung magiging sagot, 3x multiplied by x minus 2. Sometimes we have to do factoring para masimplify natin further yung ating equations. So, to factor a quadratic form of x squared plus bx plus c, we note that x plus r multiplied by the quantity x plus s is equal to x squared plus quantity r plus s multiplied by x plus r times s. Very familiar na kayo with this quadratic equation kasi usually, ito lang naman yung nung high school, lagi naman itong ina-emphasize. And when you go to your higher architecture problems, gamit na gamit po ito. Itong quadratic formula. So, paano ba natin i-factor out yan? It says here, we need to choose numbers r and s so that r plus s is equal to b and r times s is equal to c. Diba? Such that, itong r plus s na kukunin natin, dapat equal siya sa b, and then pag minultiply natin si r and s, is equal siya dun sa c. So, let's have an example para mas klaro. So, for example, we were asked to factor x squared plus 5x minus 24. So, ibig sabihin, the two integers that add to give 5 and multiply to give negative 24 are negative 3 and 8. Diba remember kanina, r plus s is equal to b, r times s is equal to c. So, ibig sabihin, r plus s should be equal to 5 and that r times s is equal to negative 24. So, kung isipin natin, ano ba yung r plus s na magbibigay sa atin ng number 5 at saka yung r plus s na, r times s rather na magbibigay sa atin ng negative 24. So, ito siya, diba? R plus s, negative 3 plus 8 will give you 5. And then r times s, negative 3 times 8 will give you negative 24. So, therefore, you have x squared plus 5x minus 24 is equal to x minus 3 multiplied by x plus 8. So, yan po yung sagot on how you could factor this particular equation. So, let's have another example. So, it says here, factor 2x squared minus 7x minus 4. So, it says here, even though the coefficient of x squared is not 1, because in this case, the coefficient is 2, we can still look for factors of the form 2x plus r and x plus s where r times s is equal to negative 4. When you try experimenting, it would reveal that 2x squared minus 7x minus 4 is equal to 2x plus 1 multiplied by x minus 4. So that's how you factor this out. So next topic, completing the square. Completing the square is a useful technique for graphing parabolas or integrating rational functions. Completing the square means rewriting a quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c in the form of a times x plus b squared plus q, and can be accomplished by your first step, factoring the number a from the term involving x, and number 2, adding and subtracting the square of half the coefficient of x. So in general, we would have this particular equation, ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to, if we factor a out, a multiplied by x squared plus b all over ax plus c. Or, pag i-factor out na naman natin si a sa buong equation, diba, magiging ganyan. Idadagdag lang natin tong b all over 2a, tapos ima-minus din natin siya. So, technically, parang walang nangyari. Bakit ba natin ginagawa ito? Para makuha natin yung factor. Easier way to factor your x. So, you would have this. If you simplify this, ito po yung kalalabasan niya. And we have example number 6. So, it says here, rewrite 2x squared minus 12x plus 11 by completing the square. So, una, i-factor out natin yung 2, diba? 2 multiplied by x squared minus 6x, quantity plus 11. The square of the half of the coefficient of x is 9. So, di ba, ang coefficient ng x is negative 6. Half of 6 is 3. And then, if you square 3, the result is 9. So, magiging 2 multiplied by x squared minus 6x plus 9 minus 9 plus 11. Such that, di ba, pag quantity mo to, if you factor out x squared minus 6x plus 9, you will get this. So that will be 2 multiplied by the quantity x minus 3 quantity squared minus 9 plus 11 to give you a final answer which is equivalent to 2 multiplied by x minus 3 squared minus 7. That's how you actually complete the square. So next topic is your quadratic formula. By completing the square as mentioned in the previous slides, we could obtain the following formula for the roots of a quadratic equation. The roots of a quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0 are, diba, ito, very familiar na kayo dito. That's how you get the roots of a quadratic equation. So you have x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Gamit na gamit nyo to, lalo na when you go to your higher architecture subjects. So let's have example number 7. So solve the equation 5x squared plus 3x minus 3 is equal to 0. So with a is equal to 5, your b is equal to 3, and your c of course is negative 3. The quadratic formula gives the solution. Diba? Negative 3 plus minus square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 5 minus 3 is equal to, or all over rather, 2 times 5. And if you try to simplify it further, you will get negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 69 over 10, which gives you two values of x equivalent to 0.5307 and negative 1.1307. So, yung isa, ipaperform nyo lang yung addition. And then, yung isa, ipaperform nyo lang yung subtraction. You would need or you should have two values of x simply because you have the square there. Pag tatlo yan, tatlo yung value ng x. Pag apat, apat yung value ng x. Ganun po siya. So the quantity b squared minus 4ac that appears in the quadratic formula is called your discriminant. So itong b squared minus 4ac, yung nasa loob ng square root sign kanina, there are three possibilities. Depende sa value ng inyong discriminant. So kunyari, if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, ibig sabihin yung equation nyo, they have two real roots. And if b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, then it means that the roots are of equal values. And if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, meaning you have a negative discriminant, the equation has no real roots. Ibig sabihin, you are dealing with complex numbers. So the three cases corresponds to the fact that, or rather the three cases correspond to the fact that the number of times the parabola y is equal to a squared plus bx plus c crosses the x-axis is 2, 1, or 0. 0 po dapat yan. So pag yung discriminant mo is greater than 0, your parabola will cross the x-axis twice, as indicated here, di ba? Pwede kasi yung parabola mo is facing downward or facing upward, but of course, it will cross the x-axis twice. So, dito, di ba? Kung yung parabola mo is facing downwards, ayun, krinos niya yung x-axis twice. And if it is equal to 0, then i-cross niya yung x-axis once. Kumbaga, nandun yung vertex niya. Isang beses niya lang dadaanan. And if yung parabola mo, or rather yung discriminant mo is less than 0, it will never cross the x-axis. So, take note po, 0 po dapat. Sorry for the error there. So now let's go to your radicals. The most commonly occurring radicals are your square roots. The symbol, yan, yung symbol na yan, means the positive n root of. Thus, x is equal to the nth root of a means x raised to n is equal to a. If n is even, then a is greater than or equal to 0, and of course your x is greater than or equal to 0. We have two rules when we are working with roots. You have the square root, or rather the nth root of a times b is equal to the nth root of a multiplied by the nth root of b. And if we divide, diba, the nth root of a all over b is equal to the nth root of a all over the nth root of b. So let's have an example for your radicals. So if we simplify, it says here the cube root of x raised to 4. So how do we solve this? So una-una is we try then to factor out, diba, dito sa loob, x raised to 4, such that you will have the cube root of x cubed multiplied by x. And then, paghihiwalayin natin sila, you have the cube root of x cubed multiplied by the cube root of x, giving you x lang pala dapat, tama, x multiplied by the cube root of x. So this is the final answer. That's how you simplify radicals. That's why, class, it's very important that you know how to factor out or how to simplify, kasi it will make your life easier, especially when we already deal with your calculus, algebraic functions in your differential and integral calculus. So next is your exponents. So if we let a be any positive number and we let n be a positive integer, then by definition, diba, this is your first rule in exponents. A raised to n is equal to a times a times a times a hanggang sa ma-reach mo yung number na n. Second rule, a raised to 0 is simply equal to 1. Third rule, a raised to negative n is equal to 1 all over a plus a raised to n. Fourth rule, a raised to 1 all over n is simply equal to your nth root of a. And that a raised to m all over n is equal to the nth root of a raised to m, or that's simply equal to the nth root of a raised to m, where m is any integer. So let's go to the laws of your exponents. If we let a and b be positive numbers and let r and s be any rational numbers, that is ratios of integers, then you have your first rule. A raised to r multiplied by a raised to s is simply a raised to r plus s, and that a raised to r divided by a raised to s is equal to a raised to r minus s. Third rule, a raised to r raised to s is equal to a raised to r multiplied by s. Fourth rule, ab raised to r is equal to ar br. And then fifth rule, you have a all over b raised to r is simply a raised to r divided by b raised to r, such that your b is not equal to 0. So let's have example number 9. So if we try to simplify x raised to negative 2 minus y raised to negative 2 all over x raised to negative 1 plus y raised to negative 1. So if we try to simplify that, diba, x raised to n, yung isang rule kanina, saan na yun? Yung pinakauna. Balikan lang natin. Ito, diba? If you have a raised to negative n, that's simply equal to a all over a raised to n. Yun yung rule na ginamit natin dun sa example number 9. So going back, yeah. So x raised to negative 2 will be equal to 1 all over x squared minus 1 all over y squared divided by 1 all over x minus 1 all over y. Tapos ito isi-simplify po ulit natin, di ba? Such that, i-combine natin sila. You will have y squared minus x squared divided by x squared y squared all over y plus x divided by x times y. Tapos isi-simplify po ulit natin to. Giging ganyan. Y squared minus x squared all over x squared y squared multiplied by, di ba yung pinakauna nating chinek or kinover kanina, you just invert the denominator such that it will become xy all over y plus x. And then we further simplify this, giving us, diba? Giving us y minus x plus y plus x divided by xy all over y plus x. Tapos pag sinimplify mo ito further, it will give you the final answer which is equivalent to y minus x all over x minus y. Kasi pwede mo na i-cancel to. Y plus x in the numerator, you can cancel it out with y plus x in the denominator, giving you this final answer. So second to the last topic is about inequalities. When working with inequalities, we have to note the following rules. So first, if A is less than B, then A plus C is less than B plus C. Which makes sense kasi kung mag-add ka ng any number to A and then adding the same number doon sa kabilang side, edi dapat less than pa rin yung sign. Second, if A is less than B and C is less than D, then A plus C is less than B plus D. Third, if A plus C is, or rather, if A is less than B and C is greater than 0, then A multiplied by C is less than B multiplied by C. The fourth rule, if A is less than B and C is less than 0, then A multiplied by C is greater than B multiplied by C. Fifth rule, if 0 is less than A and A is less than B, then 1 all over A is greater than 1 all over B. So rule 1 says that we can add any number to both sides of an inequality. And rule 2 says that two inequalities can be added. However, we have to be careful with multiplication. Rule 3 says that we can multiply both sides of an inequality by a positive number, but Rule 4 says that if we multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, then we have to reverse the direction of the inequality. So, I think mas maganda na makikita natin itong mga rules of inequality if we have an example. So, example number 10. Solve the inequality 1 plus x is less than 7x plus 5. So, using rule number 1, di ba tanggalin muna natin si 1 dito para yung x lang yung may iwan sa kabilang side. So, paano natin tatanggalin? We set c equal to negative 1. So, we subtract 1 from each side of the inequality. So, as follows. Di ba makikita mo dyan, 1 plus x minus 1 is less than 7x plus 5 minus 1. Siyempre, whatever you do to the left side, you have to do it on the right side as well. And if we further simplify, x is less than 7x plus 4. Now, of course, we want to get rid again of x, such that dapat x lang yung matitira sa isang side. So, what do? Using rule 1 again, setting c is equal to negative 7x, we subtract 7x from both sides, giving us x minus 7x is less than 7x plus 4 minus 7x. So, diba, magiging negative 6x is less than 4. So, makikita mo na dito, nag-iisa na lang yung x doon sa isang side para ma-solve natin siya. Now, what do we do next? Using rule number 4, wherein we set c equal to negative 1/6, we divide both sides by negative 6 and reverse the direction of the inequality. Kasi diba sabi dun kanina sa rule 4, pag we multiply or divide by negative number, dapat i-reverse natin yung direction ng inequality. So we have here negative 6x divided by negative 6 kasi we multiply it by negative 1/6 is greater than 4 all over negative 6. Of course, yung negative 6 dito tsaka negative 6 dito magka-cancel out, leaving us with a final answer equivalent to x is greater than negative 2/3. Or the solution of the inequality is the interval negative 2/3 to infinity. Kasi any number greater than negative 2/3 kasama siya dun sa solution. So ito po yung sagot, negative 2/3 to infinity. So the last topic is about absolute value. So it says here, the absolute value of a number A, denoted by this particular symbol. Very familiar naman na kayo, parang may dalawang, nakapaloob siya sa dalawang line, is the distance from A to 0 on the real number line. Real numbers are always positive or 0, so we have the absolute value of A is greater than or equal to 0 for any number A. So in general, the absolute value of A is equal to A, or the absolute value of A is equal to negative A if and only if A is less than 0. So we go to the properties of your absolute value. Suppose A and B are any real numbers and N is an integer, then ito lang naman yung mga rules. So the absolute value of AB is equal to the absolute value of A multiplied by the absolute value of B. And the absolute value of A all over B is equal to the absolute value of A all over the absolute value of B, given that the value of B is not equal to 0. The third is the absolute value of A raised to N is simply equal to the absolute value of A raised to N. So, meron pa ba? Yes. For solving equation or inequalities involving absolute values, it's often very helpful to use the following statements. Suppose that A is greater than 0, then rule number 4, the absolute value of x is equal to A if and only if x is equivalent to the positive and negative value of A. The fifth rule, the absolute value of x is less than A if and only if negative A is less than x and that x is less than A. Sixth, the absolute value of x is greater than A if and only if x is greater than A or x is less than negative A. So the properties of absolute value, mas maganda kasi maintindihan natin siya if we have an example. So let's go to example 11. Suppose we are to solve the absolute value of 2x minus 5 is equal to 3. By property 4 of absolute values, 2x minus 5 is equal to 3 is equivalent to 2x minus 5 is equal to 3 and or 2x minus 5 is equal to negative 3. Such that if we solve 2x is equal to 8 or 2x is equal to 2, you have the value of x which is equivalent to x is equal to 4 and x is equal to 1. Dalawa po, pag absolute value, dalawa yung value niya kasi we take into consideration the positive and negative sign. So let's have another example. Suppose we are to perform or solve an equation involving an absolute value and an inequality such that the absolute value of x minus 5 is less than 2. By property 5 of absolute values, the absolute value of x minus 5 less than 2 is equivalent to negative 2 is less than x minus 5 and is less than 2. Therefore, we have to add 5 to each side para we get rid of this negative 5, we will have negative 2 plus 5 is less than x minus 5 plus 5 is less than 2 plus 5. And if we simplify that, we will get this value. 3 is less than x is less than 7. And therefore, the solution set is open to the interval 3 and 7. So, the value of x is anything greater than 3 but less than 7. So, typically, that's the numbers 4, 5, and 6. So I think that's it for the review of your algebra. We will have a next topic, which is the review of trigonometry. I will be providing you an activity for the algebra that you would need to solve. Just wait for the file that I will be posting. Please study hard and study well, class. And I hope you enjoyed this particular video. Please, tawag na dito, please do wait for the next video review on trigonometry. Sana po naintindihan nyo siya since algebra is very crucial in your pre-calculus subjects. So that's it for me today. Stay home, stay healthy, and stay safe. Goodbye, everyone.